Activated. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Just gentlemen, if we're being honest. Make that joke every time. Never stop making it.
Never gets old.
Never gets old. Now, boys, I know you're excited. Jason is back, baby.
Hello, everybody.
Long hiatus. How long have you been gone? 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
Well, I think since we recorded, it's probably been 3 weeks because there was other things getting in the way between our schedules.
That's true.
So we almost... Oh, that's right. My family fell ill. And so we decided not to record the week before I left. So it's been probably a solid 3 weeks. But I was actually gone 2 weeks.
Okay. Yes.
So we're back.
We're back, baby.
The gang is back in town.
We're back in town. Do you have any fun stories from your adventure?
Any fun stories?
Yes. You went to see family.
Mm-hmm. Yep, went up to Oregon to see my side of the family and had a really good time. It was really nice. We got to see just about everybody.
Good.
Everyone we were looking to see, we were able to see and spend some good quality time with.
Good.
I got I think you were talking about, you said that at some point that I was the most fringe person you know.
Yes.
And we have friends who are far more fringe than us, if that. So we went to see them on their little 5-acre farm.
Yeah.
And man, so they don't have electricity or running water in their house right now.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought you were
they
going
have
to say
water
permanently.
Well, they don't like electric lights. They decided that they actually like their kerosene lamps better.
Okay.
They've got antique kerosene lamps that they got. I'm sure you go to sleep way easier that way without the LEDs.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it's just enough to see by, really.
Yeah.
They said they can read by it, but I'm like, I think my eyes would be strained.
I used to, and I still, I'm trying to get back into it. We used to have a very strict, not after 8 p.m. in our house, everything was candlelight. You can definitely, it's really not that hard to read by candlelight. Just beeswax candles. They burn really bright. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I have looked into the oil lamp, but the paraffin oil that you burn is terrible for you.
Paraffin or kerosene? Or is it the same thing?
I have no idea. Just
okay.
if you go to oil lamps, if you a standard oil lamp, you have to burn olive oil in them. If you don't want to burn the paraffin oil is the standard, if you were to go to Home Depot or something.
That's what's most readily for sale.
Yeah. And then but if you want, you have to burn if you want something that isn't a noxious chemical in your child's lungs all night. Right. Olive oil is
better way to go.
Yeah, olive oil, animal fat, that kind of stuff.
Oh, animal fat too?
Yeah, I think.
What do you know? The old-timey stuff's better for you?
Yeah, who would have thought that?
The non-highly processed and artificially produced. So yeah, no, they had Emily and I were just talking about that this morning, that it was not a high-protein meal that they fixed.
Okay.
It was all vegetables. So there was sweet potatoes and kale and a couple of other dishes that were all vegetable-based stuff. And by vegetable-based, I mean whole vegetables, not plant protein put together in the lab and costs, $15 a pound kind of plant protein. It was stuff they all grew pretty much. Everything was from the farm almost.
Okay.
And we were satisfied. And I'm used to eating... I'll take quite a bit of calories in.
Oh, yeah.
I can put a lot of calories down.
Yeah.
Usually more than other people I'm eating with.
That's not a surprise at all.
And
you have a gigantic skeleton.
My family has high metabolism. Anyway, it was reassuring. It was we could probably... I'm assuming that it's just because it was all grown, homegrown, and it was direct from the soil, ripe when it was picked, as opposed to picked too soon and grown on fertilizers as opposed to good soil.
Yeah.
So you can be surprisingly satisfied on good homegrown stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's not as high protein or wouldn't go as long as you would think. If you're buying everything from the store, it's completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you throw in even just 2 farms, like one other family's, like if you guys are exchanging your.
Oh yeah. Trading amongst yourselves.
Yeah. Now you're talking about
some little bit of specialization.
Yeah. A little bit of a little bit of specialization.
Little bit of specialization is not bad. I think you need to be diversified in a farm, but not so diversified that you can't do anything well.
Right, you're not like monocropping.
Yeah, monocropping, but also not so far the other direction that you try to grow every single thing.
Yeah, it's all trash.
It's all garbage because you don't pay attention to any of it, or you can't be. You're just not that good at least not at first. Maybe you stack things and do a couple new things each year and get gradually better at them. You could have quite a good bit of diversity and still know what you're doing with it.
Yeah.
Most of it would turn out well.
Figure out what you like. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Who would have thought that on Work Hard we talk about balance? That's the principle that we keep coming back to. Yeah, dude, I've been chronically online like the past 2 weeks because I've been at my desk way more because of work, because of this new job. And so I've been way more like on the internet. And one of the things concepts I've gone on a crusade against on the internet the past couple of weeks is about food, is the disparity between American and European food. Mm-hmm. So
as far as nutrients or
just the European food is like, so the like meme that you get on the internet a lot that's like memed by both people on our side of the social and political spectrum and people on the other side of the social and political spectrum is that European food is less chemically hazardous, more nutritious. You'll lose weight if you eat it. The bread's better. It's just like there's like more whole creams and fats and like less processed stuff in it.
And you're against that? As truth? Is that what you're crusading
No, I don't
against?
I don't necessarily think it's not true. I just think that they're leaning into it. Like people lean the implication, the thing that they're saying is that there's this like there's this like LARPing sort of idea that these people have in their head that there's like Europe is better.
Well, sure. No. I mean, we're Americans, but Americans still like the home country a bit. Idolize it.
Yeah.
Pretty
certainly.
heavily in some ways and mock it equally on the other side. I just was made aware of the British memes. Maybe this is an old trend.
Yes,
ball.
Yeah.
I just watched that. Have you ever watched the channel Jolly, where those two guys they
have like
have high
British
schoolers
kids try stuff?
and middle schoolers trying American stuff, snack
yeah.
foods, or having Americans try British foods, whatever.
Yeah,
they had them react to British memes.
Yeah, I've
and
seen
see
that
if
video.
they got it or not.
Yeah,
they're like ball. Oh, okay. They're like that's fair. That's fair.
Tuesday. Yeah.
Tuesday. Yeah, you've seen that one.
Yeah.
That's a pretty funny channel.
Yeah, it is. I think that's a good
stuff.
one. That's a good one.
It's pretty good natured too. Mm-hmm. They're pretty fair. It's not totally ragging on. Yeah, I like the way they go.
Yeah,
about it.
It's two guys who like just enjoy the cultural differences between.
Yeah, they totally enjoy the cultural differences and they like watching other people react.
Yeah,
biscuits and gravy. Oh,
yeah. And then they eat
Why
it.
would
And
they?
like, yeah,
it looks like sick.
Yeah. Looks like snot. Yeah.
And then they try it and they're like, oh, I like this.
And then they pull out the fried chicken. Have you seen that where they get the fried chicken out? And the kids are like,
well, they do a whole one about Southern food. I think that's where I think
whichever the one where they do the biscuits and gravy, and the kids are like,
chicken.
"This looks disgusting," and then they eat the biscuits and gravy.
And most of them like it.
They're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so good!"
Yeah,
and then they're like,
"Why don't we
you
have
think
this?
That's good. Check this out." And they get the fried chicken out, and the kids are like, "What?" Like they eat.
They've never ever had it.
Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah, that was fun. Not so much where they did one where they showed like popular American soft drinks. And I was like, they pulled out some weird ones. And
some ones that are not representative of what's popular in
America.
America.
There was like a sour, a Warheads, like sour drink. I was like, oh, golly. And then for Fanta, they had like a blueberry one or something.
The one nobody drinks.
I was like, nobody drinks that. I've never even seen that in stores. Yeah. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you gotta get
a lot of people in the comments were like, all right, 3 of these we actually drink, and the rest of them I've never heard of.
Yeah. The point I was trying to make to everybody was that the American food is actually worse because America is better than Europe. So in a European country, the food is better because they're trying to get their food products delivered to a population not even a tenth the size of the U.S. population.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
In an area not even a tenth, like half the size of a large U.S. state. And so there's no need for
shelf stabilization and things like that.
preservatives.
Where you're trying to get, as a company, you're trying to grow as large as possible and therefore service all 50 dang states, which arguably maybe should not be your goal.
Right.
There's some things you shouldn't try to ship all the way across the states because they're just not going to be as good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're wrong at all. And I think the market, I guess maybe the ultimate point that I wanted to make after it's not even like being chronically online, like being on the internet too much. It's just like conversations I have with people at church, conversations I have with my other friends, like my normie friends,
I'm sorry, your normie friends?
Yeah, my like friends from college, the guys that are just like rocking like normal 9-to-5s who just they just like watch football. They're just normal people.
All right. Your standard American.
Yeah.
Little boxes on a hillside.
Yeah, ticky-tacky people.
Ticky-tacky people.
Yeah.
Which is the same.
Yeah, dude. Hey, be a ticky-tacky person. That's fine. Rock your ticky-tacky. I'm not. There's a reason why suburbs exist in mass and why people joyfully live in them, because it's efficient and it lets normal people have a slice of the pie that they would not otherwise be able to have.
Well, it's also community too. You're around a lot of other people, like-minded people, so it's comforting.
Yeah.
To be like, we all just take care of our lawns and we go to our 9-to-5 jobs and we have our 2.5 kids, and then we compete to see who has the newest
car
SUV.
Yeah. We do barbecues on the weekends where we kind of flex on each other, kind of have a good time. Yeah.
Did you hear Marvin got promoted?
Yeah.
They're making Marvin a partner now.
Yeah.
It's too bad about Steve.
It's too bad about Steve. They got there's a way they can afford that Escalade. I've seen the thing. Yeah. Oh yeah. So like even amongst normies, amongst people I talk to on the internet, amongst my normie friends who who I'm exposed to through the internet, there's this like, what is it? It's a general dissatisfaction with the system on both like the left and right. And I don't mean like politically. I just mean even like culturally speaking. Like there's a general dissatisfaction with the way things are today, which I think is fair, and you should be dissatisfied. But
I'm dissatisfied.
So am I. Laying that at the feet of capitalism is a fool's game, and I think that's part of my beef. Is
okay. You mean blaming? Just to clarify, do you mean blaming capitalism for all of it? Saying that's the core problem is capitalism?
Yeah. The core problem is capitalism. First, like the first thing that I would want to say is that people think about they think about like capitalism versus other systems incorrectly. So capitalism is not a system in the same way that communism or democratic socialism is, or some sort of like monarchistic centralized managed economy. That's not what capitalism is. Capitalism is the observation and description of reality as if you're observing a disease. Like you're observing you're observing the way the weather works. It's not a man-made system. It's an observation.
Do you draw any distinction between capitalism and a free market economy?
Yeah, in my head, those are the same thing.
I think you go ahead with your point, and I will push back slightly or clarify afterwards.
Okay,
I'll try and shut up. Except for
I assume you're going to make the argument that capitalism is like a devotion to like mammon, like a devotion to capital, prioritizing capital
over people.
Yeah.
Capitalism. Well, do you want to just continue saying what you're going to say, and then I'll finish your thought? You've been trying to make it for 15 minutes now. I keep on asking what norms are.
This is fun. This is fun. This is good broadcasting.
Yes. Oh, okay. You hear that, ladies and gentlemen?
This is good broadcasting.
Gentlemen and lady. I think her name's Susan. I think there's one Susan out there listening.
Her name. I know her name. It's my mom.
Is it? Okay. What's her name?
I'm not going to say it now.
Oh, okay.
If I say it now, then I'll dox. That's one detail too many to make it too easy to figure out who I am.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
And my new
Susan. Then I'm going to call her Susan. I think your mom's name is Susan.
At my last job, if this had gotten found out, I may not have gotten fired. At my current job, if anybody hears this, I'm gone for sure. So I got to be careful.
Really lock it down.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that it's not free. We can even drop the word capitalism if you want. Free markets are not a system that was designed by man and imposed on people.
Free market is what standardly happens.
It's just nature.
That's what happens without government coercion or fiddling.
Right, exactly. And
subsidizing some things to make them appear cheaper to the populace.
Sure. Yeah.
Offsetting costs with tax dollars, etc.
Yeah, and tariffing things and stuff. Now, I want to clarify that I'm not by any means like a libertarian.
I'm not either. I think it was tempting at some point, but I'm no longer leaning that direction.
Yeah, and I don't even think like the guys that I would most draw from to make these points and talk about this stuff is that, everybody knows the Austrian guys, Mises and Hayek and all those dudes. They're not even libertarian. They're the guys that came after them. I think would you could describe as minarchists, which I might be, which is just minimum the minimum.
Oh, minarchists.
Yeah, minarchists. So you aim at the minimum possible government, but
gotcha.
Whereas libertarians would say that libertarians would dictate what the minimum possible government is. So they would say these are the exact policies in which a government must undertake in order to be just. When a minarchist would say minimum possible government just is a flexible term. We might even need to like today we might need to even kind of lean into authoritarianism a little bit just to get things under control. Like that's what a minarchist would be like.
Okay. But as a temporary measure, and then back off once you've got things stabilized.
Right.
Gotcha.
And so the point I'm trying to make ultimately is that it's not the answer. Everybody I see seems to think that the answer to the problems we're facing today is centralization. It's not the reduction of the ability for people to express power over one another. It's the increase of that, and then making sure that we're the ones that get to express power over others. If that makes sense.
Say that one more time.
So, in America, the assumption used to be that the political parties and the ideas around politics were centralization versus decentralization.
Of power, or are you talking about production or everything?
Everything.
Okay.
So, in the political world, power.
So federal.
Yeah, so
centralizing in federal as opposed to states. Right,
states versus the federal government, all this kind of stuff, and so there was all these questions around what was appropriate to what level of power is appropriate to centralize versus what level of power needs to be decentralized, and that is just gone out the window. Everybody now operates under the assumption that power needs to be centralized. And once that power is centralized, we need to make sure our guy is the one who has the power, so he can impose our will on the other people, which is not I don't want to fault our side for thinking that way, because in fighting, in boxing, the only way to get someone to stop punching you is to punch them. It truly is the best defense is a good offense.
Fighting fire with fire.
Yeah, and so when you have like it's a sort of leftist attack that we're all under right now, this sort of communist centralization, whatever. You do have to
wrestle control back.
Right, somehow. And you can't do it by sitting around talking about how things should be a different way. You have to actually take action, and in order to take action, that requires agency, which is power. But what I'm worried about is when we get that power that we ultimately will, because they can't. The left is currently on. They just have like a death wish. They're just like suicidal, and so they
snake eating its own tail.
Yeah, exactly. It's a snake eating its own tail, and so it can't maintain its position, and it hasn't maintained its position. It's over.
That's what progressivism is. It keeps moving forward.
Right.
There's no position to maintain except taking the next beach, whatever that is.
Right.
Whoever suggests something more wild, you're in.
Yeah, and I would even take a Doug Wilson angle on that, which is that like progressives have co-opted that word, that they're not progressive at all. Like I would say, you and I are progressive
now, because we're trying to progress past what we view as a degeneracy of society, right?
Right, but it's right. But that's what I'm saying is it's like they're not progressive; they're degenerate in they're regressive.
Okay. I'm using the term as it's used in modern culture.
Right,
so
right,
they
right.
would say they're progressive. I would say they're progressing in the wrong direction.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
And traditionalists, as opposed to conservatives, would like to go back to what is traditional and what worked well.
Yes.
Nuclear families and all that.
Right.
As opposed to progressives, quote unquote, which would say anything can be defined as a family. Yes. Any number of people in a quote unquote couple, even though a couple means two.
Yeah.
A relationship can be 5 different people as long as they're all willing.
We can have a
for
pod.
as long as they're. What's that?
We can have a pod. We can have a pod of people. A
pod of people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a pod of pedos.
A pod of pedos. Yeah. So, ultimately, the point the point that I want to make is that you really have to, young people, I think in particular, really, really need to readjust their framing around this issue and get back to a place where it's a matter of centralization versus decentralization. Because, like, decentralization increases the amount of agency that individuals have in a system. Because it's decentralized by its nature. How you're decentralizing power, so everybody holds a little bit of their own power, which is the idea behind voting. Now, and this is the kind of we could go down such a rabbit hole with this. You might say that individuals cannot stand up against something as powerful as the federal government, which is true. Which is a big part of the reason why it needs to be reduced in size. We need to decentralize it. And you can, much of what the, much of the policy ideas and the thoughts that I hear around economic policies, social policies, that kind of stuff from guys on our side, blasphemy laws, tariffs, restricting certain, getting rid of, making certain forms of expression illegal. That would be very unjust and unpopular to do at the federal level, and we would lose to whoever was saying you don't get to tell everybody what to do. So we would lose to the left if they came in and just said you don't get to tell everybody what to do. But if you peeled off a layer of power off the federal system and returned that to local polities, at a local level, because people have more power to maintain control over their towns and communities and counties, you can pass those laws there all day long. You can be much more justly authoritarian in a city than you can be at a state. And
yes, because it's so widely varied. You can't possibly, from a federal level in a country the size of the United States, you cannot possibly do what's best for everybody with a single
policy.
Slapstick, not slapstick's not the right word, but
like a generalized.
Yeah, a really generalized. It does not work. That's
Right.
why states, and even lower than states, because Texas is very diversified.
Right.
And
What works for Dallas cannot work for Austin. What works for Austin cannot work for East Texas.
No.
Yeah. And that's a very serious point, and that is the essence of the issue is centralization versus decentralization, and so thinking that we need to get Franco, the Spanish general who was like a dictator in Spain after the second Spanish Civil War, like thinking that we need a Christian Franco to come in and just take control of the country and usher in some sort of
golden age.
Yeah, golden age of Protestant authoritarianism, like theocratic kinist sort of, like deport everyone that's not white. Like that's just not that's not what we need. Nobody wants it, and you won't get it. You'll lose just like the left. Like the left we watched them try to do that over the last 20 years, and they failed. And it's falling apart in front of us. If we try to do the same thing, it will fail because people want to catch the game. People want to catch the game. They want to live in their malfeasance, whatever. And if you try to impose on them unwillingly this idea, your own ideas, they'll resist. They will resist. Mm-hmm. And they'll resist to the point at which they will defeat your political party. You are like political parties, no matter what you think, are at the mercy of the masses. The most powerful regimes in history.
They're catering all the time and vote whatever they think will get them the black vote or the women's vote or the Hispanic vote. That's always talked about.
Right. And the most
how
powerful...
do they get that? How do they talk how do the candidates present themselves in each state?
Mm-hmm.
They're going for certain... Which states do they prioritize as swing states, and how do they go about that? Which states do they give up as lost versus focusing their time somewhere else where they think they can win and get an edge?
Yeah, exactly.
They're playing to the masses constantly.
Right.
While at the same time trying to influence them.
Yes. And the most powerful regimes in history have been at the mercy of the masses. They've spent most of their money. Most of the Roman emperors spent most of their money on wars and keeping people in Rome from rebelling.
Placating people.
Yeah, keeping people busy because they're at the mercy of the masses.
Well, I just read so at the end of 2 Corinthians and going into Ezra, Cyrus, the emperor of Persia, king of Persia, made a decree saying, God has told me to let you all go back to your own country and rebuild the temple. Go back and repopulate your own area.
Right.
And in the little notes in my study Bible, it's like this was a common policy of,
please don't
emperors back then, as like keeping all of the subjected peoples happy.
Right.
Letting them do their own thing as much as possible up to the point of rising up.
Right.
So keep them from rebelling, but if you keep them happy, that's the best way to keep people from rebelling.
Yeah, and we have friends who would say that right there is why you would want to have centralization, because if you have one guy, he's easy to hold responsible, and you can just kill him if he's doing something wrong. But the problem I would say with that is that in order to kill him, you have to kill you have to probably get killed. A lot of your friends have to get killed. Mm-hmm. A lot of his friends, a lot of people have to die to kill him. And we negated all the violence with voting. And so we ought not just throw that out the window if we can, because I like not getting killed. And I like...
as much as the next guy.
Yeah, I really enjoy not getting killed. I really enjoy not getting drone struck in a
hey,
tent.
Don't knock it till you try it, man.
That's true. Yeah. Don't knock getting violently drone struck in a tent and having your death posted on Twitter to be mocked by like relentless furries. Yeah, that's just crazy. But anyways, the ultimate point I'm trying to make is that centralization versus decentralization. That's how you need to codify the idea in your head. You need to be thinking that way. Free markets are not the answer to your woes is not electing somebody who will give you. This is one of the things in particular that I see that's like heinous is Americans on both sides of the political spectrum thinking that universal health care, like free health care, is a good idea. You
can't see it out there, but I closed my eyes in sad grief and frustration.
Yeah, listen, to the young guys out there who are, you think you've read your first Derrida, you're in year 2, year 3 of your political science degree. You think you know what's going on. You think you know about foreign policy. You've got a Twitter account with 1,200 people following it. the reason that healthcare is unaffordable today is because the administrative capacity or the administrative requirement on the healthcare system because of the government is so taxing that it's increased costs like an order of magnitude. And the problem with government policy restricting things and creating regulation that's so complex that you have to hire people to deal with it. The real problem
create more bureaucracy to deal with all the paperwork.
Right. Yeah. Create bureaucracy to deal with the bureaucrats. The problem with it is that it's not just that you're having to hire administrators who you then have to pay. Mm-hmm. It's that you're hiring administrators that you then have to pay who are producing nothing you can sell. So
they're only cleaning up messes.
They're only cleaning up messes. So it's synthetic messes that don't need to exist.
Yeah.
And so it's
overly complicating it.
Yeah, it's double. You're getting hit double. So because you're getting hit for their salary, and then you're also losing money on the fact that you're paying somebody to do something that isn't a sellable service. So you're losing money and you're losing the income you would have generated if you got to hire somebody who was going to generate a sellable service. Mm-hmm. So it's double. So you're not just paying for, and that idea of the sellable service, that's theoretically infinite. That doesn't have to just be the $60K that it's not that you hire a $60K a year bureaucrat, then you double their income and it's $120,000 a year you're losing. Like in theory, they could be offering $1 million worth of services. You don't know. And so
unrealized profit,
right? Unrealized profit that will never happen, but the market knows. The market knows it, and it incorporates it into prices, and prices are how you measure efficiency in the system. And so when there's massive amounts of inefficiency, prices go up, and and that cost gets passed on to us. That's why healthcare in the U.S. is so
obscenely expensive.
Yeah.
Why a bag of saline, which is just fluid to rehydrate dehydrated people, is, an ER is going to charge you probably a couple hundred. Well, that's, as far as I understand, that is regulated. So they have to charge a certain amount to make it even, so hospitals don't compete with each other.
Yeah. Stuff like that. Yeah, that's absurd.
Ridiculous.
You want hospitals competing with each other.
Yes.
Because they'll race to the bottom. They'll charge for as little as they can to get more customers. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which creates questionable working environments sometimes. That's not a perfect system. In which case, if there's enough jobs and it's healthy enough, you could theoretically leave your job. And so they have to keep their employees well as well. And if they don't do a good enough job keeping their patients out of the hospital repeatedly, their ratings will go down.
Right. People will stop
going to that one. There was one hospital where I used to work, which was always the one that people refused to let us take them to.
Yeah.
We'll say, well, so this hospital is available. They're not on divert, and they're like, do not take me there.
Yeah.
I refuse to go there. I will get out of the ambulance.
Right. Exactly.
Some people were to that point. They're like, no, if that's the only one available, I'm not going.
Yeah.
I will stick it out at home.
That's where you go to die. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not that bad off.
Yeah.
I stand a better chance at home. That's how much they hated that hospital.
Yeah.
And there were some people who held that opinion about every hospital because they had a bad experience, and that's inevitable. But that was the one that was, by and large, by far,
everybody hated it. Yeah. And so you might say, how many people have to die in order for society to figure out that one hospital is bad and nobody wants to go there?
A few hundred to get the word out.
Yeah.
But
I would say, how many people has the British government killed?
I have
the
no
NHS? Idea. Millions? I mean, the NHS, which is a centralized, socialized healthcare system. The UK has totally centralized, socialized healthcare. They just decided unilaterally that a baby who had a chance to live, given a certain treatment, had the right to die with dignity. And so they held him in the hospital and forced him to die, even though the Italian government naturalized him and said they would come get him and put him in one of their hospitals and try to save him.
And they refused.
And they refused to allow it to happen. So
it's barbaric.
Yeah. To take the
going back to where we said a couple episodes ago, where we think we're so civilized now.
Right.
It's like, no.
It's
as barbaric as it was. It's just sterile.
Yeah. It's just medical now. Yeah.
It's the best decision. That is a Nazi-like approach to things.
Right. It is.
It's treating human beings as expendable. It's not valuing life for the sake of life.
Yeah.
really, really gross. I mean, you look at Canada too. Look at some of the horror stories that come out of there as far as their healthcare.
Takes 9 weeks to get an appointment with a general healthcare practitioner.
Yeah, general healthcare, let alone any specialist after that you might have to get referred to.
Yeah, you just die waiting. You literally just die waiting.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. You're over this age and your odds of, survival are this and you're no longer contributing to society. Sorry.
We have a pod for you. You can get in this. We'll fill it full of nitrous oxide. You can just die. In Canada right now, they're trying to legalize
euthanasia. It's already legalized.
It's already legal in Canada. They're trying to legalize euthanasia of minors without the consent of the parents. So a teenager can just say, "I'm depressed. I don't want to live anymore."
Freaking sick. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's centralized healthcare.
They also have a euphemism for it. They had a term for it, and I listened to a podcast. It was an interview with somebody whose mother was kind of pressured towards this by the Canadian healthcare government, whatever. And her mother never associated it with suicide, taking these pills that would kill her.
Yeah.
She just didn't want to live anymore. And they had this euphemism. But once somebody mentioned the word suicide to her, she was like, oh, no, what? I would never commit suicide. Like she was still averse to the idea of suicide, but didn't associate it because she's getting older. Medication, old age, dementia will make these people very easily foolable, and they're very, very vulnerable.
So crazy.
Really, really sick stuff. Yeah, it's really sick. And really
so when you centralize things...
So to be clear, so it sounds like... At first, I thought you were more for centralization because we need to take power back, but now you're saying... So are you saying long-term...
I'm saying long-term decentralization.
Decentralization, okay, we agree.
Yeah.
But you're saying short-term, you need power to fight power.
Yeah, we're going to...
get back to decentralization.
Yeah,
so
we're going to need like a new George Washington to come in and just say, listen, I'm in control of the army. You guys are going to have to listen to me.
Yeah.
Like Bukele in El Salvador. Like he just came in... He just said, "Listen, I'm in control now. I'm calling the shots. I'm creating an entirely new arm of the military. We're going full fascista. I'm arresting anybody with gang tattoos. I'm not asking questions. I'm not asking for permission. I'm just doing it." And he's got a 99% approval rate right now in El Salvador. They were the murder capital of the planet. Their murder rate is now like less than 2%. It works.
Hey, if you have really harsh penalties for the right crimes, it will go down.
Yeah, it turns out if you just arrest people for committing crimes, they'll stop committing crimes.
And if you start killing the people who repeatedly kill people or who kill anybody at all, someone's convicted of murder and you put them down, everyone else who might take a second thought before they go and kill their ex-wife or something.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to be hung
publicly.
Publicly within weeks of me committing this crime.
I don't get 3 decades to study up and appeal endlessly and waste tax dollars.
I don't get to basically live a human life, a natural human
Not that
life.
prison is a good place to be. There's some pretty horrific... It's a pretty brutal place.
Yeah, which is that's another thing of like, dude, you want to
that's a cruel and unusual punishment is to put somebody
in prison
for 50 years as opposed to just
shoot them. Just shoot
killing them for the right reasons, not for stealing a loaf of bread, but for like rapists. And so if rapists all got castrated,
right?
Not chemically, I'm talking about like physically.
Right.
They have no ability to ever rape again.
Right.
And probably not much desire to if you're missing your balls. You're like, I just don't feel like it.
I got snipped. I raped and I got snipped. Yeah. I'm down for hanging rapists. You could hang them or snip them. I don't care.
Either way, you'd significantly reduce the amount of like true rapists.
Mm-hmm. You sure would.
Not calling somebody who pinches somebody's butt a rapist either.
Right.
Like don't dilute the word. Don't dilute the word racist, and don't dilute the word rapist. Call rape and racism.
Right.
And leave the rest of it to other terms.
Yeah.
Don't brand people for life for pinching somebody's butt once or saying some girl at work was cute.
Right.
You're not a sex offender.
Right.
It was tactless, and perhaps you probably shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
So punish them. Maybe they get fired, but don't make them register as a sex offender and never get a job again, and all their neighbors will be suspicious of them for the rest of their lives. That's a good way to create an even deeper, more dark criminal.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah. And so,
just like the prison systems. Somebody goes in as a relatively light criminal.
Right.
And it's like, well, now you got to spend 10 years in here. You just wiped out 10 years of progress in their life. Now they're branded for life.
It's now more lucrative for them to get out and commit crime in order to.
Or it's one of their own possibilities as they see it.
Yeah.
It's so much harder for them to climb back out of that. You're not rehabilitating anybody by keeping them in prison for a long period of time.
No.
Find the living daylights out of them or hang them.
Yeah. Hang them the day they get convicted.
Yeah.
Like if you're convicted of murder, it's just, okay, tonight we're going to hang you. Mm-hmm. Or tomorrow, it's too late in the day, tomorrow morning. You're going to have the worst night of your life.
Yes and no. That does open up the door for people who, for bad lawyers, for people who are motivated to get someone hung, to falsify evidence. And there is
you want to give like at least a couple weeks for
those tragic circumstances of people. You hear stories of evidence not being presented and things like that. And it's like, oh, well, this person was released from prison 3 decades after they committed the crime and they are actually innocent the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like if you'd hung that person, it's like, well, there's yikes.
Yeah. Well, dude, I saw.
You won't eliminate injustice that way.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I read an article about just a guy going over some of the examples, the real big examples of times that guys have been found innocent of a crime they were accused of and found guilty of like 30 years later. Tremendous of them are actually guilty of those crimes. They got off on technicalities from these like Jewish lawyers with like new DNA technology, like coming in and being like, well, technically he was on that. And there was like,
gotcha.
But it was like, dude, it's like he's the last person that entered the building. He's on camera. He's got a knife in his hand. He's got the knife in his hand. He comes out, no knife in his hand. And the lady's dead. And they're like, well, the DNA technically was whatever, and we didn't see him for real cyber. And like they get off on like that.
Gotcha.
Anyways, the ultimate point I'm trying to, to bring it all back to the food thing. So in the post-industrial revolution, when we were adding all these like byproducts to the of like industrial processes to food, we found out we could use them as preservatives. The issue people were trying to address was feeding a massive population,
right,
and feeding them over a large area with what is, relatively speaking, now inefficient ways to produce food. Now, since those things have been enacted, or since those chemicals have been put in our foods, since those things have been used to preserve our foods, the cost of just electricity has dropped by more than half. So the entire system is more efficient, and that affects farming. Like, not only do we have actually direct farming methods that are much more efficient than we had 100 years ago, but it's cheaper to farm in every way. We produce the tools cheaper. We produce the power needed to power those tools more cheaply. We can produce things. Everything's more efficient. And because everything's more efficient, the market is reacting to that. We no longer have to worry about getting food to people. We can do that without these chemicals and things in the food. And the market's reacting to that. And you can see it play out live because there's a whole wave of people who are talking about this issue now, who are trying to go healthy, who are trying to stay organic, who are trying to get localized food.
Because a lot of these stabilization methods are not good for you, as it turns out.
Yeah, they're not good for you. And they don't address a problem we have anymore.
Because of refrigeration or more localized farming, or what?
The more efficient farming, so you can now provide more food in a localized way. So you don't have, like, the most efficient way we knew to farm was monocrop agriculture. That's why we did it that way.
Right.
Now we know.
And same with GMOs.
Right. Now we know that you can, now we have all these, maybe you might say it's reclaiming old knowledge or whatever, but it might be reclaiming old knowledge, but it's certainly marrying old knowledge with the fact that you can power your entire farm for less than 10% of what it used to cost to power your farm. Because like you can, like, what I mean in a practical sense is, like, there was, at the time when farms were more generalized and more localized, before monocropping was introduced, like, there was still a tremendous amount of like animal powered plowing going on. Mm-hmm. That you don't have to do that now. Like, you may not ever have to do that. You might choose to, but
I'd argue that maybe it's a better way to go, but
it might be a better way to go. I don't know about farming, but I'm saying
farmers are also making almost no money and controlled by the government. the whole U.S. population is supported by 2% of the population actually farms.
Which is a testament to how efficient farming has gotten.
It's a testament to government influence on it and subsidies and control of the market. I don't know if it's necessarily more efficient.
Well, I'm saying that there was a time in human history when 90% of the population was required, 98% of the population was required to make the food, and 2% of the population was doing some soldiering and ruling and like.
Right.
Now it's flipped.
Yeah, it's flipped.
And it flipped because efficiency increased. That's the only way it could flip. How else could it
government policy and
I mean, if you had a government come in and say, without the ability to do it, if you had a government come in and say, listen, we don't like the fact that everybody's producing food. We want a knowledge economy. We want an industrial economy. We don't want this agrarian society. If they came in and just started making decrees that we had to get rid of the vast majority of farmland and turn it all into cities, or just push people into cities and get them working in knowledge economies or industrial societies or whatever, people would just starve to death. If you actually can't have 2% of the population feed everyone else, mm-hmm. and then you try to force 2% of the population to feed everyone else, everyone would just starve to death. We just can't produce that much food. So the government policies I'm not arguing with the idea that government policies are screwing with farmers like that. I think
it's also destroying our farmland. The efficient methods, the conventional farming now relies on heavy machinery, which is exceedingly expensive.
Yeah.
And so farmers are debt ridden and trapped.
Yeah.
They have to be the margins are so thin that they have to get bigger. There was that government policy, get bigger, get out.
Okay.
What's his face in, what was that? The Wendell Berry book, The Unsettling of America, details that pretty thoroughly about government agribusiness policies, basically forcing a lot of smaller family farms to grow bigger or get out and not be able to compete in the market anymore.
Yeah.
The methods used to do those huge monoculture farms result in a lot of erosion and waste of soil.
Right.
So we don't have good soil anymore, and we're losing more and more.
Yeah.
Because entire fields are devoid of any insect or bird life that would naturally keep down pests. So they're relying entirely on synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides to keep down weed and pest pressure. And so I would argue the 2% of farmers, so perhaps it is efficient, but it's not long-term healthy or sustainable. I think that it needs to, and maybe you're saying the same thing, we need to revert back. A larger percentage of the population needs to become farmers. I'm not saying 98% necessarily.
Yeah.
I think I might be fairly happy in an agrarian society, but that's also, you and I are a little different in that way.
Yeah. I think if an agrarian society develops this sort of because there's a whole, in the world that I exist in, the Bitcoin world, that's a huge section of Bitcoin guys think that that's going to happen, that we're going to get this sort of solar punk, agrarian society that's going to kind of
solar punk.
Yeah. Like the opposite of cyberpunk. It's instead of this some dystopian future of things sucking, it's just green and sun everywhere and people all kind of have their own little farms. And if that's what happens, I am not going to
argue with it. Or
no, I'm going to be this is great. This is awesome.
Yeah.
It's just that I don't think that people want to organize themselves that way.
I think that coming from,
I think they want
there's a lot of people kind of going back to the land and homesteading, a lot of people trying to get back into a small agrarian, self-sustaining lifestyle. So I don't know if that'll continue.
I agree. I think you're right. And again, what I'm saying,
I don't think that'll cover 98% of the United States.
Right.
But I think there will be, with the expense of farmland, I think there will be a lot more families on a lot smaller acreage. And to your point about more technology and so the more readily available tools, right? It will be more affordable.
Right.
Whether or not that's good because we're depending on cheaply made or, another country who uses child labor or subpar labor to create the tools for us rather than American wage level tools being created.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, that'll get taken care of when America stops facilitating global trade. When we go isolationist, it will be so cost inefficient to try to get foreign goods to the U.S. to anywhere. Mm-hmm. Like localization is coming. Localization is coming whether people want it or not.
Well, I sure hope so.
It is. It's just this model is unsustainable, and it like I said earlier, it did answer a post World War I and II world needed this model.
All those soldiers came home, got married, had a boatload of kids.
Right.
And they needed a lot of food cheaply. Right.
And so this system that we have now was the answer to that problem. That problem is gone.
It's gone too far now.
And it's gone too far. Like all things will go.
Pendulum swung,
right.
And now we need to even it out. The pendulum needs to be at the bottom, not far left, not far right.
Right. And in 100 years, there's going to be two guys sitting in front of microphones talking about the sort of Luddite stupidity of localism. We need to, globalize a little bit more. and that's going to be to address their problems. And they're going to be talking about us like retarded boomers, and like that's going to happen. And so I think you're 100% right. I think you coming out here doing this is a microcosm. It's on an individual level. It's a market reaction to the fact that localism is coming. It's needed. It's very desperately needed right now. It's coming. It's now more possible than ever. And there's just no reason to
aside from the cost of farmland being driven up by the Bill Gates of the world, buying up lots of farmland because of greed or control or both, really. Control primarily, I think.
Yeah.
Controlling the market by buying it up or realizing that he can grow more bugs that way.
Yeah, or all of the above. Yeah, and whenever the economic crisis that ends this global oligarchical structure that we have right now, whenever that comes in the next decade, Bill Gates will probably get hit in the head with a brick, walking to his car by some person,
fanatic.
Yeah, by some fanatic. When everything's just less safe for 2 years, a lot of these people are probably going to have pretty violent ends. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just expressing that it's probably the reality of the situation.
Because they've put themselves in that position and made a lot of people pissed off.
Right. They just made everybody angry. Everybody wants to kill them now.
Mm-hmm. The same reason anybody gets assassinated.
Right.
You made enough people angry, and one psycho
you just
took it all the way to its logical end.
Yeah, you need one guy to be successful too. Have you ever seen that video of somebody standing behind a pillar and Bill Gates is walking like into this like government building, and this guy's hiding behind a pillar with a cream pie, and Bill Gates walks past him and he turns around and smashes this cream pie into Bill Gates' face?
No, really?
You ever seen that video?
No.
He gets pied, dude. It's crazy. It's like, I've seen it a million times. The joke online is like, this is the moment that Bill Gates decided he was going to create the coronavirus and get everybody killed. Like, this is what
he's
decided.
He's like, what? We have too many of these.
Yeah, they keep pieing me.
Don't like what I'm doing, huh?
Yeah,
I'll do more of it and kill you all.
Yeah. So I think that localism and decentralization is coming whether people want it to or not. The question is how much damage can centralized power structures do on the way out? Like,
yeah, it's going to be a rough transition.
Yeah, it is going to be a rough transition. They might set off a nuke. I don't think they'll launch a nuke like from a country to another country. That would be a little wild, but the CIA or like Mossad might give some sort of terrorist organization a nuke to like set off in like Tangiers or something, or Denver. So yeah, I mean, the ultimate point that I was trying to make when I started talking about this is that like you can relax. You can also get off your high horse. Like you and your little group of guys do not have the answers. If your dude gets in power, he's not going to usher in some sort of utopian society or whatever. It's just
But you do think that the little group of guys might take power and at least knock it back a notch?
My hope is that there's a little group of guys that takes power And it's the right group of guys that know that at some point they're going to have to surrender that power for the health of everyone.
Right. That they'll actually step down when the time comes is the key thing.
Right. Exactly.
Because it could get a lot worse.
Yeah, like Trump has this thing where he's like, day one, tyrant. After that, back to democracy. Day one, tyrant. Have you seen that speech?
No. Is that what he said?
Yeah, he said on a speech, he was like, day one, definitely tyrant. After day one,
shutting down a lot of programs.
Yeah. He's like, day one, tyrant.
Buffing up a lot of other programs.
Yeah. After that, democracy. Day one, for sure, tyranny. Like he said that. And it's like that. That's what we need. That's what we need.
Oh man.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. I mean,
now I'm definitely not recommending this podcast to my parents.
Your parents,
they'd be horrified. Now they're horrified about January 6th.
Oh, were they really?
Oh, very much so.
Oh no! Do they think it was like for real, like a planned coup?
It was a shame to America, I guess. That
I think that's. I agree with that. Like, it is shameful. It is an embarrassing thing to have our country be this publicly divided.
Well, that for sure. No, I think it was shameful that people did something about the divide.
Oh,
and about the sense and not accepting that Trump lost.
Oh, okay.
It was a shame to storm the Capitol like that.
Yeah,
it was embarrassing and it's unpatriotic and yada yada yada.
Okay,
that's what I'm.
Yeah,
that's I believe what their position is, which is really hard, And then sent me the whole. Have you seen the New York Times? How they put together the whole nicely edited video footage, and here at this time Trump said this, and at this time there was a lot of people moving down, and then this is when they charged the gates, and yada yada. No mention of anybody being let in by. They Capitol security. They like, come on in.
They charged the gates. It's pretty funny.
The
gates were opened, and the cops went, "Come on,
come on in."
Yeah.
No mention of that. And this was, of course, before the footage was released, and I haven't seen any of that stuff, but I understand that
it's pretty damning.
Of
the footage, it's pretty
of the people who would say that January 6th was a coup attempt.
Yeah, it pretty well refutes that.
Okay.
They had tour guides. The cops were literally like.
Well, there's that footage. I have seen the Buffalo guy being led around.
Yeah,
like following ticker tape. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and the argument that they would make is that these people were being watched by the police, as opposed to the police guiding them through the Capitol, being like, okay, let's walk over this way, let's walk over here, let's go. Like, the police were just following them, making sure they weren't breaking anything or doing anything wrong. But I mean, the videos obviously refutes that. The police are obviously like pointing them directions.
There's still people in prison for that, aren't there?
Oh yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. So that is. Yeah.
So the ultimate point I've said this exact sentence. How many times? We should edit that down.
The point I'm trying to make.
The ultimate point I'm trying to make is.
Maybe we should have a T-shirt. The ultimate point I'm trying to make.
The ultimate point that I'm trying to make. After an hour of talking.
Jason keeps interrupting, asking what meme I'm referring to.
Yeah, I know, but that's part of the reason why I selected you, so that we get to have that interaction. It was between you.
I'll play my part.
Yeah, good. All right. I was thinking about doing starting another podcast called Hyperbolic, and having either
hyper premium. Pretends hyperbolic.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Doing either Tannen or Chase. And I was thinking about Tannen because Tannen's so easy to shock. And so I could just like say really banal things.
Wait, are you saying?
Yeah. It hit me just, like how many times like during our brotherhood meetings, Tannen ends up being like, "Oh, guys, stop! I can't do this." Like when we were calling Chase the paper bitch, and he was getting so uncomfortable. That was so funny, dude. And that like just making an entire podcast where I'm just making Tannen uncomfortable, basically, like making just mildly racist comments and like
how often, how long do you think he'd keep coming back?
I'd probably think forever.
Yeah,
he's a fun guy, dude. He's down to have a good time. Yeah,
the fun time is being uncomfortable, like watching a scary movie. I like being scared.
Oh, dude, that reminds me. I just totally off topic, but I was just telling my wife this story. My mom is she's not a psychologist. She's a psychotherapist. Psychotherapists can be psychologists, but often they are not. So she's just in that world. And when I was little, she told me a story about it was either the therapist of the family involved told her the story, or the family involved told her the story. And it was that this family, I think it was like their first kid, they had like a 5-year-old kid who they let watch the movie Jeepers Creepers.
Haven't seen it, but
it's horrific. It's a horror movie. But it's like an old time slasher. It's like super gory. People getting speared in the chest, dying very violently, screaming, terrified, terrible ending. Everybody dies in the end. And they let their like 5-year-old boy watch it, and he just would not stop watching it. Just watched it over and over and over and over. That's all he could get home from whatever they were doing, and be like, turn it on, I want to see it. So they took him to a child therapist to see what was going on. And they were like, yeah, he's watching it over and over and over again because he wants it to end differently. Oh. Yeah.
That's so sad.
How terrible is that? I probably shouldn't even said that, honestly. This is too dark. I just told Emily that story. We were on the way to church. I told her that story.
She's like, that's all I'm going to be thinking about.
Yeah.
I just want that story to end different.
I traumatized him. I just want that story to end different. Yeah.
You're as bad a husband as they are parents. What's the matter with you? I can't believe I'm doing this podcast with you. I quit.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's just tragic right there. I'm out of topics. Do you have a topic?
Let's take a short break.
Okay.
We'll be back right after these messages from our sponsors. See, I've read that there's basically 3 phases to each cigar because of those changes.
Yeah.
And so your first third, second third, and then the last third are all kind of different. There'll be a couple of different transitions that you make.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you continue through that, your third one might be better. Some people like one versus the other better.
Yeah, I usually like the first third, and the second third I can usually take or leave, but the last third I get about halfway through it, and I'm like,
if I'm burning it too hot, sometimes the smoke is just too hot, and I start getting kind of tongue biting.
Yeah. I have no problem getting rid of a cigar a little early.
All right,
we are back. We're back. Hello. Let me think.
Readjust my chair before we really get back. Maybe I could just move this over. That would be better. Less noisy.
Anything you're thinking about? Any big grand ideas you've had recently?
Big grand ideas? Well, we're planning on being out of the trailer April 15th.
For real?
So I gotta...
You gotta hustle.
I'm talked with my boss on our vacation there. I was like, the Joneses... Maybe you can cut that. There's lots of Joneses. They need their trailer back.
Oh,
I don't know if that's a
okay. Yeah,
that's probably not enough of a tip for everyone to figure out who
the Joneses is a pretty.
Yeah,
that's a pretty general name. I think
and
that's
it's not like we have
safe.
any association with them online anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they need their trailer back for some spring traveling.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, good. That gives me some sort of deadline, so I'm not just continuously postponing it, and I can take that to my boss and say, I gotta get it livable.
Yeah.
Please don't knock on that. My children are knocking on the container on the outside, somehow forgetting that this is like a phone call. Don't disturb us on the phone call. Don't disturb us when we're talking.
That is true. That is funny.
Anyway, so... And the guy who's renting it to us was really cool about it, but I was like, it would be a lot easier if you just gave me a date.
Yeah.
It's like, please just give me a deadline so I can have a deadline.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't like this. Well, we could use it back because I don't want to inconvenience your travel.
Right.
And have you 2 weeks from the point you want the trailer back be like, we'd really like it back in 2 weeks because we have travel plans scheduled. And like, oh, I'm not ready to give it back. I'm still living in it. My family will be out in the field. So I'm like, if you give me this time, and my boss doesn't have a whole lot going on right now this time of year.
Okay.
And so I was like, if you don't need me, I will take most of February off.
Okay.
And so at this point, as far as I'm aware, I have just about all of February off. There's no firm plans to work.
Okay.
I told him if he needed me for something, I can come in here and there, but I want to take as much of February off as possible. And go like crazy on this place.
Yeah.
Which will feel really good. It's a little daunting.
Let us know if you need any help.
There's a lot to do.
The Brotherhood's here.
Thank you. I might need it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure everyone will be happy to get over here and help you.
Especially now that it's
Chris
good digging weather.
Yes, that's true. It is good digging weather. Yeah. Yeah. Tanner and Chris will probably be the only helpful ones, but Chase and I can do what we usually do, which is stand there and offer moral support.
It's welcome.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So
April.
we're looking forward. My wife is, the longer we're in the trailer, the more okay she is with the rougher the house is.
I can't even imagine how.
She's like, we don't need it fully wired. It's like, we can make do with the compost toilet, sure, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
basically, if it's framed and insulated, I think she'd be okay with camping in here at this point.
Yeah. I can imagine. Dude, wives are such troopers.
Some of them.
That's true, some of them. I was just talking to my boys about how I could not.
My wife is a trooper.
My wife is a trooper too, dude.
Yeah.
She married a have-nothing idiot. And
Do you worry about her judgment, though?
am I what?
Do you worry about her judgment, though?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I do. Do you worry about yours?
No?
No? I get worried. Yeah, I get all the time. I'm like, you respect me, right?
No, I'm just like, you're going to respect me.
You better.
You better.
Be serious.
You're stuck with me now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. You're still getting out of this. I hope you respect me. If you don't, you're in hot water.
No, I can say that jokingly because I'm respected. If I wasn't, it would be absolutely destructive to my ego. And
yeah.
I would be a mess.
Yeah, I can't.
So it's only because I'm respected and have a good wife. And thus far making God-given good decisions.
For now. Yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
Hopefully more and more.
Hopefully more and more. Yeah, that's the idea.
Well, that's the idea behind wisdom, is you should be able to apply knowledge better as you go along.
Yeah.
Provided you don't get prideful. So that's the key for me, is not becoming prideful. I mean, look at what all I've done. Do the Nebuchadnezzar. Look at all this I've acquired. Look at my kingdom.
Dude, I get one thing goes right for me and I get like that.
Yeah.
Like one thing goes well.
You let out a maniacal laugh.
I'm
Rev's
him.
like, what's that, hun?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, dude. We had.
Bow before me, wife.
I'm the best. Look where I've brought.
You're
us.
so lucky to be married to me. There's speaking of how crucial wives are to successful men.
Yeah.
I think there's a story about Winston Churchill. He and his wife were walking along one day, and I don't know if they saw some guy who was, I think he was down on his luck. I don't remember the details of the story, but he was not Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
But Winston Churchill was like, I know that guy. Like, I went to school with him or something like that, and whatever. And his wife's comment was, to paraphrase, more or less like, well, if I'd married him, he would be prime minister.
Yeah. He goes, he walks by some like guy he went to high school with or whatever, and he goes, what if you had married him? And he's just like, they're like homeless or whatever. And Winston Churchill's like, oh, what if you'd married him? And she goes, well, then he'd be prime minister.
Yeah, you'd be homeless.
Yeah, you'd be homeless. He'd be prime
Winston.
minister. Yeah. Yeah. Which is probably true.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably true. Yeah, there's so much like positive reinforcement that comes from having another human being be like, for sure, not only do you got this, I'll put more than my money where my mouth is. Like I'll basically, I'm betting my entire life that you are the man, that you're going to make it. Like that's incredibly,
which is
huge
also dependent on how they act.
Right.
So they're not just betting, like they're putting work in too.
Yes.
So it's not a bet. You could marry the most potentially successful person, and if you're a crummy wife who never builds him up,
yeah, it's an investment,
and never lets him sleep with you, you're going to end up with a disaster of a marriage and the most sad and depressed husband ever.
Yeah, you will. Yeah, you gotta do those maintenance. Those maintenance appointments, those have to occur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important.
It is important. It's very important, dude. It's very important. And girls sometimes they don't realize that.
No.
They don't realize
you can't look at it as a reward thing or a...
Yeah, certainly not.
No. Biblical stance is it's a duty for both of you.
Yeah, for both of you. Yeah, it's a duty for both of you.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
God gave it to you. It's good.
It's good.
Do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, dude, I got one of my very close friends. I think his girl might just hate him.
That's really sad.
Yeah. He's like one of the most stalwart, like unshakable people I know. And so I think that's why he can handle it.
So far.
Yeah, so
It'll wear
far.
him down. I don't think any man can last that long. Or they just become hardened. So they might last, but they'll be hardened.
Yeah, they'll just be cold.
Cold, yeah. Cold's a better word. They're just shut off. They're like, well, I shut down that part of myself because it wasn't getting used and I'm not being loved, and so I'm just going to create this hard case around myself in order to not go crazy.
Yeah.
Or kill her.
Sometimes you have to kill her. Sometimes you have to kill your wife.
Not an official stance of work hard.
That's a joke stance?
That's a joke stance.
That's an Ethan making a joke?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dude,
that's why we can't say Ethan's last name.
That's true. That's why we can't say Ethan's last name and why I don't talk that much at work. I don't fit in. Although this new team is actually way cooler. This new team I work for. So
awesome.
I still can't obviously can't say retard and stuff. Like, can't say faggot, but boy, do I want to. But I can make more. Like, I guess you can't make more. What am I trying to say? There's like a point at which. What am I trying to say? Okay, well here's a helpful observation for those guys going into the knowledge economy, who are in offices and stuff. This is something I struggled with for so long, dude, so long. Which is the like conformity that's necessary to operate in a professional environment that has like a ton of people in it. So any company like over 80 people, any company over 20 people, you have to, you really have to sacrifice the part from the hours of 8 to 5. You have to become the SpongeBob episode where he smooths out all of his blemishes. He's like, "Hey, how are you?" You do have to do that. From 8 to 5, you do have to do that, and that's not
not the time to be you.
Yeah, it's not the time to be you. You're trying to get business done, and so any part of you that's like overly quirky or overly individual is a distraction that's not efficient and will get in the way of achieving the goals that you have agreed to adopt and work towards. So, it's just not good. Which is a part of the reason why people who have eccentric personalities can struggle in a professional environment like that, because it can be extremely taxing.
That's probably why I never got the firefighter job.
You did fail the psychological exam. So
you thought too much.
Yeah,
you were not the right cog.
Yeah,
you were no cog.
Yeah, you were not a cog.
You were the wrench.
Yeah, you're not a cog. Yeah. And so to not be a cog and then to force yourself into a cog-shaped hole can be uncomfortable. But if you find the right cog-shaped hole, boy, will they pay you a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that can make it worth it.
Yeah. Now, speaking of that whole behaving differently at work or developing a side of yourself that was very underdeveloped and weak, maybe you're bringing out an aspect of your personality you didn't use before. When I was in paramedic school, we had like clinicals or lab time where professionals who worked in the industry would come in and help us with lab work, basically, and kind of, give us advice and stuff like that as well. So there was like a firefighter paramedic who he was like a very jovial, he was like a semi-comedian kind of guy. Everybody liked him, very likable dude. And I remember, I don't know if he told me specifically or the class, but it resonated with me. He's like, I am not necessarily a type A personality.
Yeah.
He's like, that is like the assertiveness that you have to show on scene when you're in charge of something or people look to you to be in charge because you're wearing a uniform. He's like, that's a side that I had to develop of myself that really only comes out more at work.
Yeah.
And not so much at home, or at least wasn't a natural part of his personality that he had to develop. And that was really helpful to me in kind of thinking about how I would behave on scene. Becoming more assertive, making decisions, and not necessarily questioning them, at least out loud. Keeping all that kind of tucked down, maintaining a calm exterior to where other people wouldn't panic, even if me inside was like,
this is going to go bad. Everybody's going to die.
Yeah, exactly. Poker face.
Yeah.
You got to develop your poker face and muscle on and make changes if you need to.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, that a big part of that is like the, broadcast writing, this kind of stuff has been, I think, my life's ambition since I was in middle school, and being a technology salesperson was never ever on the goal sheet or whatever.
Yeah.
And I have a very I think most people who know me, even off mic, like I think maybe you disagree with this, I don't know, but I think even off mic, I think I have a more biting, sort of grating way of communicating, and I can be a little brash in the way that I talk, I guess one of the things an example I would use is one time I was with my in-laws. We were having dinner, and I don't remember what the topic was, but the joke I made was on topic. It was relevant to the conversation, and I said, if slaves were legal, what kind of slave would you guys have? And they were all like, and I was like, I'd have a black one. And my father-in-law thought it was hilarious.
He got it.
Yeah, he laughed so hard.
That's like that. It's like not necessarily shock jock, but close to it.
Right.
Are you a bit of a shock jock?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy. Like a lot of it spawns from really enjoying watching my mom squirm, like messing with my mom, saying things that are just like crazy, and my mom being like, "Oh, dear."
I can relate to that. I can relate to that. And because I was pinned immediately, I didn't realize this when I started volunteering as a firefighter. But each of us new recruits was put with another recruit to be on a shift. So there were enough of us that two of us went on each shift.
Okay.
And so I was with a guy who was very different in personality than I was. He's probably more akin to you.
Yeah.
And so strong personality and jovial, dynamic, and whatnot. I'm more reserved.
Yeah.
And so I think he told me later, and we're still friends. We got along pretty well.
Good.
I didn't like him at first. So something I discovered about myself is a lot of people that I'm at first a bit repulsed by, not repulsed, I mean, that's too strong of a word, but that I draw back from and be like, I don't have anything in common with this guy.
Yeah.
And this happened a couple other times during my work at the private ambulance company too, is that people that I at first was like, it's a strong cup of coffee, this person. It's a spicy meatball. And I eventually got to really like them and enjoy being around them.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was one of them, and we still talk. But he told me later, he goes, yeah, he basically pegged me as a, religious, conservative guy from the very get-go. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I didn't realize at first that I put off that air.
You definitely do. You put off like an almost pilgrim like.
Do I?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Yeah.
That must be why. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. You definitely do.
That's really funny.
Yeah. Yeah. That is very funny.
Just shows how bad your self-awareness can be sometimes, or at least mine.
Yeah, I have no idea how people see me. And I am in sales. That's bad that I don't have any idea how people see me. I have no idea. I have like a vague notion that people like me, but I have no concept of like how
I was always liked as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, you do certainly have a charisma about you that's very helpful, especially in doing this. Yeah, so the point I was ultimately trying to make is that like there's so much of the of my personality that had to be that day in day out at work like has to be suppressed, and I thought that was bad, and I thought that was going to be the opposite for doing like stuff like this, when in reality, like learning that skill to tamper myself down has been incredibly useful doing this, because I cannot just be unrestrained here.
Say anything that you like.
Yeah, doing
on the
work hard.
podcast?
Yeah,
Oh,
certainly. Yeah. Because I just wouldn't be. I don't think it would be enjoyable for people. I think people would just be, golly, this guy is just shut up. Like, just for once, don't say, like, just dial it back a little, you know. Where I feel like I do think that my personality is can be like an engine that drives an entertaining vehicle, but it needs to be focused. It can't just be a flamethrower that's just going everywhere all the time. Yeah, that's just like you can barely aim it just by sheer like pull it in one direction. It has to be a sort of driven.
Jim Carrey in one of his earlier stand-ups, or like 90s stand-up routine, where he's wearing the really multicolored shirt. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I've seen that one, yes.
Yeah. His part about the little voice inside your head that tells you to do horrible, impulsive things.
I don't think I've seen that
Something
part.
You have to like tamp down.
Okay, yeah.
He's like, you'll be driving along, right? Little voice in your head says, what would happen if No, the voice that he has these impulses, you know.
Yeah.
He's like, you're driving along the road and there's another car coming, and the little voice inside your head goes, swerving into oncoming traffic is counterproductive. And I was like, I have that impulse.
Right.
I'll be driving along and be like, what if I just ended it right now?
Right.
And I'm not suicidal or depressed.
But there's nothing stopping me.
No, it's like, if I swerved over here, I'd kill myself and this other vehicle.
And no one could really stop me from doing that.
No. And it's like, I swear, there's little demons going around and
like
whispering that in your ear.
Yeah.
And going, what about this idea?
Yeah.
What if you just lit out and smacked that person in the face?
Right.
What if you just, did this other horrible thing?
Right.
Like, no.
Yeah, dude.
I think that your conscience is countering demonic suggestions as imps, basically. Yes. Lesser demons.
The one I always deal with.
Is what I kind of attribute that to.
That might be the case. The one I always deal with is...
Because what would they like better than chaos and death and destruction?
Nothing
or
more.
You imploding your life by, slapping some girl on the rear at the grocery store.
That'd be wild.
Just because you had the stupid impulse to do it and didn't say no and didn't check yourself.
Yeah.
Like, what if you did the first thing that came into your mind every time you did it? Every time it came into your mind, your life would be over very quickly.
Yeah.
And what would Satan like better?
Yeah.
Than to have you give in to every thought that flitted through your head.
Yes. Yeah. And I like in college, I used to just say literally just whatever I thought.
Yeah.
Let me just say it. And it was very funny, and people would like people. I mean, I might be the most told person ever, dude, you gotta like have a podcast or something. But had I practiced,
it's here.
Yeah, here you are.
It's not what you thought.
It's not what you thought. It's not as fun, is it?
It's more sustainable.
Yeah, it might be more sustainable. Yeah, I have no idea if it's good or not. I guess we'll see. Yeah, so if you're, dude, now I'm self-conscious about saying this is the point ultimately I was trying to make. But if you're like that, if you're like if the thing you're concerned with about getting a job or like committing, like that was the thing that was like a real problem to me, and still I think still is something I struggle with, is like committing to the career path that the Lord's put in front of me, because I'm like, oh, I don't want to become this sort of like suit wearing stick in the mud who doesn't have a personality unique from anyone else around me.
Yeah, too ticky tacky. Yeah,
too ticky tacky. If you're like one of those people and you're concerned with that, I would suggest that you trust that you are in a place you need to be. You're in the place you need to be right now, and conform to those people around you a little bit more, and you might learn to turn your personality from a hammer into a scalpel, and make your personality more effective and more fun. Like, people will probably like you more in general, and the parts of your personality that make you like a creative, fun person will become more creative and fun, and you'll be
More channelable.
more channelable. You'll be able to monetize it better. And it'll make you a more effective actor with that personality. Like the raw, unshaped thing that is a large personality or a creative mind is actually quite useless and destructive. And you need to have it whittled down into a tool that can be used to further an idea that's good or have an idea that's good. And you can't do that if you think you're too cool for school, or like people in an office being, making HR friendly jokes and never taking any risks socially, thinking you're above that. Like you're not going to be able to adjust to what you're not going to be able to adjust the things that you need to adjust in yourself to make the parts of your personality that are useful to people palatable for them so that they can use it. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought, random thought. But it did burn 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So we are 20 minutes closer to 2 hours than we were when I didn't say that, which I guess is good.
That works.
Yeah.
That reminds me, I had a conversation with my younger brother. He's at his second job.
Okay.
More serious. The first job was like a server and whatnot.
How old is he?
He is 20.
Okay.
So, and he's working at a equipment rental place right now.
Yeah.
Doesn't care for it a whole lot, I guess.
Yeah.
But I was trying to encourage him that like you're going to learn things there.
Yeah.
And he is learning stuff like, servicing equipment. It's like you're going to use that for the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah.
To know how to work on equipment.
Yeah.
But I know it's hard. It's hard for me sometimes, working the job I do to be like, this is going to be useful later on.
Yeah.
Some days it's like, oh, I know I'll use this.
For sure.
And I have used a lot of the stuff already that I've learned. But, he was kind of complaining about how they, on the weekends, Saturdays are like their busiest day for rentals, obviously.
Yeah.
But he goes, they're the least staffed on those days.
Nice. Good business.
On the surface, yeah. So I should say, maybe it's just terrible business practice. But I was like, why is that? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, is there nobody you can talk to figure out, like politely and respectfully be like, look, we're just running ragged on Saturdays. And why are there half of us here?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe it's because nobody wants to work weekends. You are one of the guys with the least seniority, so you'll be working weekends for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe everyone else who's not working weekends has already made it clear that they will no longer work there if they're made to work weekends.
Yeah.
It's like maybe it's just hard to find workers, and if you don't get weekends off, you're not working there. They can find other work.
Yeah.
If there's enough other jobs available, those people might just say like, well, forget it. If you're not going to let me have Saturdays off, I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
So that might be the reason. I highly doubt that the business owner is so stupid as to look at the numbers every month and go,
I better go half staff.
Yeah. Maybe I better staff half the people I need to on Saturdays. I'll continue doing that.
You'd be surprised. I think a lot of people don't know how to run a business. I think a lot of people.
It's possible, but the business is still running. So, I mean, like, is it the same owner? Have they been doing this for 20 years? Seems doubtful to me. You shouldn't be able to run a business for 20 years and it still be successful. And maybe they're in the red all the time and propping it up in other ways. I don't know.
Well, maybe there's just so much demand in that area. There's not enough rental places that you can be stupid and still be a successful business.
In which case, maybe you could start your own.
Right. Yeah, there's so much opportunity. Is your point.
To at least learn from it.
Right.
My point was, like, figure out why. It was like they're in business for a reason.
Yeah.
And they might be good at it despite some outward appearances. You've been there less than a year.
Yeah.
Ask some questions of your foreman.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my encouragement to him.
Yeah.
I was like, put in your time, learn what you can, and, don't quit without a backup job. Because it's not a bad job. It doesn't sound like he's being run ragged or anything. But
yeah.
He was also like, they're not training me up on doing delivery runs, even though they let the guy go for a seasonal low point, the guy who does deliveries full time isn't with the company anymore.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'm not cross trained to do that. And I've let them know I'd like to be cross trained. It's like, well, maybe if you're not 21 or 25, maybe there's a point at which they say we can't insure you for doing deliveries.
Right.
It would cost the company too much, and we're making do as we are, and we have a plan to hire that guy back or whatever.
Right.
It's like there might be a bunch of reasons they go, okay, yeah, thank you. And they might not explain the whole thing to you.
Right.
It's like they're not going to explain everything to every peon at the company.
Right. Certainly not. Yeah. And you can ask. You can go, hey, help me understand what's going on here. Like,
yeah, if you go about it in the right way, hey, I'm interested in how the business runs,
yeah,
be respectful and curious about the business.
They'll get excited about that, I bet. I bet they'll be like, oh, cool, yeah, for sure. I can totally.
Yeah, like, look, it just doesn't make sense to me on its face why it is, but I'm sure there's a reason. Could you help me understand? If you go about it in that way, as opposed to just sitting there every day being more
grumbly
and discontent about it. Yeah. I don't know why they do this.
Yeah.
Don't stay in the place of, I don't know why they do this.
Right. Yeah.
Try and find out. And if they really are idiots, then find yourself another gig.
Yes.
And move on.
Yeah. And
you don't have to stay on a sinking ship.
Yeah. You don't have to stay on a sinking ship. Now, if they won't tell you,
maybe they don't have a good reason.
Yeah. Maybe they don't have a good, maybe they are dumb. Yeah. Yeah. We had did I tell you what happened with my job? Did I tell you that story? I know we talked on the phone like the day I made it all official.
Yes.
Or no, well,
you
I don't think we
finished negotiation and
I talked to my CEO. Did I tell you that part?
I don't know about the CEO.
Okay.
You talked about the human resources or something and creating the position for you.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if I said this last time with Chase. I'll risk it. I'll risk telling the story twice. So we go through this multi-week process of trying to figure out what my job is actually going to be, and we go through this multi-week process of figuring out if there is a job that I can take, that I can justify taking, and that was the kind of thing we were back and forth on. We ended up getting to a place where that became clear that was going to happen, and so we start going about this, and it was very weird because the company I work for is a very large company, and in order to have a large company, you have to have some pretty stringent HR policies in order to get onboarding done effectively. And they just won't let you operate. Like, you just can't even code into the system. It's like trying to go up to somebody at like a Whataburger and trying to order an egg. Like, they just don't even have any sort of
they have no way of actually doing that.
Yeah.
There's no way to charge you for it.
Yeah.
We don't have those, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We have eggs, but we have no way to charge you just for a scrambled. I'm sure they do, but you get the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah. It's not a smooth process.
Yeah.
The manager has to get involved.
Yeah. So there's and then, but that wasn't happening. Like, it all seemed very weird. And my onboarding was very strange, and everything it was all sort of disjointed. And there was very little transparency, until it all ended. And so it was a Friday where I officially got my offer, and, I had known I was going to get the job for several days. The offer was being delayed. But I officially got my offer on this Friday. And so I was sitting there kind of twiddling my thumbs, waiting to message my boss and tell him, hey, I'm leaving to go to this other position at the company who owns us. So I'm leaving this company. I'm going to the company above us. And I'm kind of sitting there. I'm very anxious. I'm excited. Not anxious. I'm excited. It's Christmas. I'm getting this job I've worked for 4 years for. And my CEO, the CEO of my current company, just randomly puts time on my calendar.
Puts time on it?
Yeah, just books a meeting on my calendar.
Oh, gotcha.
So everybody has access to each other's calendars.
Right.
Like Google Calendar or whatever. And then you can just set a meeting on any open space, and then you get to just decline or accept it.
Okay.
So he just throws time on my calendar. Doesn't email me, doesn't message me on Slack, nothing. He gives me no indication of what the meeting's about. Just puts Ethan and the CEO to meet.
Just you two?
Just us. And so I'm like, what is this about?
Uh-oh.
Well, I've never had one of these. Like, I don't know what this is about. And so I'm like, so obviously he knows that because his partner, the other CEO, like the other founder, is the guy who effectively like got me this job because he had given me such a glowing recommendation to this woman. And they're like best friends. So obviously they're going to talk. Like they know,
right?
This guy knows I'm leaving. Yeah. And so I was like, dude, are they going to fire me? He's going to like, what is he going to offer me a job here to try to keep me? Like, what's going to happen? And so we get in.
He's backstabbing his buddy.
Yeah, something's going on. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. And so we get in the call, and he's got an HR person with him, which is usually not good.
Sign.
Yeah, not a good sign. And I was like,
Ethan, you're probably wondering why we've asked you to this meeting today.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm like, I have a guess.
Not a good one.
Yeah. And so he goes, he's got his HR person with him. He's like, hey man, hey, listen, I wanted to be the person to tell you, congratulations. You got the job at whatever, officially. You're going to get your offer letter soon, but you're my employee.
Was this the same day? He put time on your calendar for that day?
Yeah, for that day.
Oh,
like
okay.
45 minutes later.
So
like he like put it like
I was thinking
there,
it was past the time when you were going to get the offer. Okay,
No.
gotcha.
Oh, no. So yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So he put it for that day, like 45 minutes in the future. So I have to like stand. I'm like, I just like go in.
You just got to wait.
Yeah, I'm just like
sweating.
So what do I do? Yeah, and so I'm getting stressed even just thinking about like remembering. So he's like, hey, I just wanted to be the one to tell you, congratulations, you got the job. It's official. It's all settled with HR. They're going to offer you the position in a couple hours. And I'm very proud of you. I know it's a huge deal that you got this job. I know how hard you, like guys in your position, work to get this job. I was there at one point. It's a really big deal. Congratulations. I'm really happy for you. It's also great timing because as of today, your position at this company has been eliminated. And they fired my entire team. They fired my whole team.
You were the only one who got off the ship.
I was the only one who got off the ship. And I found out that they went and found that job for me. And that's why everything seemed so weird and rushed and disjointed, was because they knew,
to save you off the
they
ship.
knew they were going to lay everybody off. And they tried to find me a position to keep me on at my old company. They couldn't justify it. And so they found me a job at my new company. And they just had that HR person just like combing the job boards, trying to find somewhere to get me. And then at some point, my new boss came in and was like, hey, do you guys know anybody that has, this set of skills? We're trying to hire this person. And they were like, boy, do we. And that's why that like,
okay, that's where it came on to your plate and they offered it to you and you're like,
right,
that's not actually what I would like.
Right. But that's also why they're being so aggressive about it.
Gotcha.
And they were being like, yeah, we can make it whatever you want. Like, we'll just make the job. Like, you give us the job description, we'll make it that. Which is that's not what they were doing. They wouldn't have done that, but it was almost like that. And so that's why I was so rushed. And that's why there was no interview process. There was no formal, like anything. It was just like, I had one conversation with my boss, my current boss now. And she was just like, yeah, this is what we were going to do. This is what we were looking for. And I was like, to justify moving, I really needed to be this, this, and this. And she was like, okay, yeah, I could probably do that. Let me talk to HR. I'll see if I can get that done. And then she was like, yeah, I got it done. And then they were just like, go, 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 go. And there was like all this like backhanded, like my internal position is still the same as the original job that was offered.
Okay. Your title, you mean?
Yeah, my title. So my internal title is totally different from my external, like the title that's on my LinkedIn and on my email signature, and the title that like, all outreach that I do when I talk to customers is different from my internal title. And the pay, they it's actually really cool. Everybody got a good deal. They got a like executive salesperson for like half the price that you have to get one, and I got to be an executive salesperson. And the way they did it was they just kept the old title and it stayed in the old salary range. And if they changed any of that, then they would have had to go to the CFO to get that like headcount change approved. And that process would have taken too long. And my layoff date for my old company would have arrived too soon for my onboarding date at the new company to overlap. So I would have been fired before I got hired, and that would have killed the whole deal. And so they
They couldn't have gotten you on at that point?
It just would have been too complex. It wouldn't all the advantages that come with just me being a part of the company and just
I see.
Like those would have all been nullified. They would have had to completely get me out of the system, then get me back into the system over here, drop my health insurance, re-add that. All the advantages of just like, we've got this guy, he's right here, he's ready to go. Let's just move him.
Yeah,
Let's just move seats. Like that all gets eliminated. And so you might as well just go after whoever you have in the candidate pool in general.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, and just like in the corporate world, adding complexity like that is an easy way to just kill a deal. And so it's not necessarily that it wouldn't have gone through. It's just now we are in a whole new realm of getting different things done. And is the CFO even going to approve the headcount? Why do you need a sales executive? I mean, this other role that we have here is not even a sales executive. Like, that's not the same job. Why do you, then you got to make a business case to them, and we're talking months now.
Gotcha.
And so it was just the whole point, I guess, to make is that it was like God had his hand on every moment of that interaction.
As he does.
Like, it was, the stars had to align
perfectly
to the minute
Yeah.
for that to go off. And it did. And so God just was like incredibly present throughout that, like so visibly present
right
through that entire,
very cool.
Yeah, it was very, very
to
cool.
where you could see it.
Yeah, to where you can see it.
Where you can't always see it.
Yeah, to where everybody involved was like, we're kind of surprised we pulled this one off. Like,
this doesn't happen every day.
Yeah, they were like, we really broke some rules. Someone could get fired for doing this because you're like, the terms of your employment are effectively a lie. So we're like, but you get to put this awesome thing on your resume point. You're going to get a big paycheck, whatever. Like, if you sell stuff. So it was really good. And now all that to say, we one of the things we've talked about a lot on Work Hard is not giving up. And when I got that offer, I was probably as close to giving up as I've been in a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was very, very, because I've had several opportunities that looked like they were just golden.
In the bag
or just perfect. And they just didn't go through, and I just didn't give up. And it's one of those things where the Lord had a plan, and I just struggled tremendously with doubt. So I don't want to say that I believed him the whole time.
Yeah.
But, I didn't give up. I stuck with it, and it paid off big. Like, this job is like trajectory of the family changing kind of promotion. So
wow, very cool.
Yeah. It's very, very exciting. Very exciting. So don't give up, no matter how, to your little brother, to everybody out there who's frustrated. Because the reason that I brought that up was because I was having a lot of the same troubles with my old company, where just the business decisions that it seemed like they were making were just seemed absurd and odd and didn't make any sense given the market and like given where things were headed and like given their past decisions, like what's going on. And then all of a sudden, all at one time, with just a 15-minute meeting, everything made sense,
Right.
Whereas like the past 2 years is just frustrating and vague, and they're not communicating well, and they're shorting you on money, and they're making what seems like all these mistakes, and there's all this frustration.
Right.
And at every turn you're like, I'm quitting. I don't want to participate in this anymore. You keep abusing me. I don't want to have to do this anymore. And then just one 15-minute meeting, it all comes together, and you're like, oh, that's what was happening. You guys were trying to keep us on. You couldn't justify the team. And you were having to go over and over again back to your bosses, the people who owned our company, and justify our existence. And the only way you were doing that was by making all these weird, absurd changes, being like, "Oh, we're testing this out. Now we're testing this out. We can't fire him yet. We still have to try this." Like, that's how they were justifying keeping our jobs.
That's the CEO who talked with you?
Yeah.
He was trying to justify it?
Yeah, they were basically just like, they were getting budget for our payroll, by constantly being like, we're trying this new thing out with them. Gotcha. We're trying this new thing out. We're doing that. It's an experiment. We don't know if it's going to work or not. We can't fire them yet. We have to try. Like that's the argument they were making.
And they finally got the flat no.
Yeah, they finally got the flat no. You have to fire them. We just can't justify this anymore. We're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on these guys that aren't. They're just
not producing.
They're not producing because the demand isn't there. Like we're spending too much money on the wrong phase of the sales cycle.
Right.
By employing these guys because we haven't established the pipeline before these guys are brought in. Like we need to get that version built up, and then we can bring them back on, or bring a new team of guys. Build that team back up. Yeah. So they were just fighting for. It was just what we were seeing looked like incompetence, looked like selfishness, looked like they didn't want to have any. It looked like they were abusing us. Looked like they were taking advantage of us. That's what we were seeing. Mm-hmm. What was really happening was they were fighting for us, and we're just doing a very bad job of communicating that and also their hands
because they can't also tell you everything that's going on,
right?
You don't tell the entire army that the emperor is doing thus and such. What your meetings with the emperor are like when you're the captain of the guard,
right? Exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't know.
A whole bunch of people in that chain of command, and each one gets less and less information the further you go down until the infantry is like, we're charging what, when?
Yeah. We're starting.
What hill are we charging?
Yeah.
That what?
Okay, got it.
No, okay. Well, we got to try it.
Yeah, we got to try it. We got our orders.
Okay, half of us got killed. What next?
I lost my brother. He's dead.
I'm glad we had this experiment of yours.
Yeah.
Seems worth it.
Yeah, seems very
We accomplished nothing.
I lost a leg.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Come to find out later, you actually were a diversion, and it saved thousands of other people.
Right. Yeah. You saved a city or something. Yeah.
You just don't know.
Yeah. You just don't know.
You're heroes now, but
Yeah. Yeah. So that all that to say, just don't give up. Even if you're observing incompetence, there's a pretty good chance it is incompetence. There's a pretty good chance that it is, but there's a pretty good chance that it's not. And so
those higher ups have to make big picture decisions. I think military is a great example of that.
Yeah.
If you ever read or watch Band of Brothers and some of the things that Easy Company had to endure, it's like they were extremely key, and they didn't always know in the midst of it. Like when you're freezing your toes off in foxholes in the snow and getting bombarded, and the visibility is so bad you don't know if it's a German or a friendly.
Yeah, you're like accidentally shooting your friend for
for sneaking up on your foxhole without giving the code word.
Yeah.
Flash, thunder.
Yeah. Dude, that show is so good.
It's amazing. The book was really good too.
Oh, so I watched a movie recently that was very good.
Was it Civil War?
No, it wasn't Civil War. No, it was okay. So John Woo. Do you know who John Woo is by any chance?
Director?
Yes.
Okay. You'd have to tell me what he has directed, but I've heard the name.
I don't know to what level his involvement was. That's unclear to me, but he is responsible in some way for the John Wick movies, like the first one or something.
Oh, okay.
So and again, I don't think he was the director, or I don't know what his association with it is, but he's got some tie to those movies.
Okay. I have not seen them except for clips. I'm aware of them.
The first one's really, really good. I think the second one's good too.
It must have been pretty successful. I hear that they're very popular.
They're really cool. They're really good movies. I just would not watch them with, you probably watch them with your boys. There's really nothing sexually explicit in them.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
What a nice change.
Right?
What do you know?
Well, that's you
don't need someone topless to make a good action movie.
Right.
Who knew?
Yeah. You just need someone to get shot in the face. Or, decapitated.
Or something.
Yeah. But I think in John Woo movies in general, there's really not anything. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not telling you there's nothing sexually explicit in those movies, so you watch them.
Do your own reviews.
Yeah. Do your own review just to make sure that that's true. But I'm pretty sure, at least in the first one, there's one scene where there's women in swimsuits, which can be pretty. That can be pretty explicit. But I don't think.
Yeah. Sometimes worse than nudity.
Yeah.
Yeah. How it's done.
Yeah. That's a very insightful observation. That is true.
Yeah. No, I think there's, not to rabbit trail too much, but I think there's something very, about the male psychology. There's something very teasing, if you will.
Yeah.
It's almost worse to see a woman dressed provocatively than just to see her nude.
Yeah, dude.
Because you could see somebody as in a more natural state. And I'm not advocating for like a nudist society or something.
Yeah.
But in some ways it's almost more natural and potentially less sexualized, depending on the context.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. I think you're right about that.
As opposed to someone who is acting very lewdly in a provocative dress.
Yeah.
Who is actively trying to make you imagine what they would be like nude.
Right.
What would it be like to have me? As opposed to someone who's just like,
I am naked.
I'm naked. And you're like, okay, yeah, I guess we're all naked sometimes.
Yeah.
Don't go out. Yeah. Don't read too much into that, but that's something I've.
Yeah, that's not a bad, that's an astute one. I like that.
Anyway, John Wick might have some bikinis in it.
Yeah, John Wick might have some
careful.
girls in bikinis, but I'm almost 100% positive that's the extent of it. The
IMDb Parents Guide is very good about that.
Yeah, dude, I love
like
that website. Yeah,
It's
I use that website
super
to decide about movies I'm going to watch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Or my wife and I will be like, oh, nope, no.
Yeah,
Sometimes they have the minutest details in there.
yeah,
Man and woman kiss passionately. Man and woman kiss less passionately. You're like,
less,
okay.
less passionately.
You're like, okay, we could do it with a little less detail, maybe.
What is less passionately mean? That's good. Yeah, that's true. They do have it like that.
Sometimes it's, and sometimes you're like, well, the rankings though, I read one, I don't remember what movie I was reading about, but it was like sexual content, mild. And it like lists all these things. I was like, this is not mild. This is moderate at least. Maybe there's no full nudity in it, but like
At least moderate.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, there's
He touches her butt.
if there's moaning, it's not mild, I don't think.
Yeah, that's like soft core.
Yeah, it's like no.
Yeah.
I don't know who put the ranking on here. Besides, in the rating, it was like some sexual content. I was like, pretty sure you don't get sexual content in the R rating for being mild.
Yeah, exactly.
Nah.
Yeah, that's a full-on sex scene.
It's like, read the details.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't stop at reading mild.
So the John Woo movies, I watched The Killer recently. So John Woo is a Chinese man. And
You don't say.
yes, he, you know, have you ever seen any of the spaghetti westerns? Fistful of Dollars, Man with No Name,
I
Hang 'em
think I
High?
started watching one, but it was a little slow. And
Okay. I love them. I love those movies.
I don't know why I quit.
They're really,
I should go and see them.
you should watch them with a drink and something to smoke. That makes them way cooler.
Maybe it's a Brotherhood movie night.
It very well may be. So John Woo did to Dirty Harry what the Italian guys did to Western movies. So the like, you're off the rails, John. I'm taking you off the case. Like, you're a crazy loose cannon cop. Like, he did that. He did to those movies, those American style movies. He did that, but in China. So he made these like Chinese movies that are like that. And dude, they are.
He made Chinese westerns?
No, he made Chinese like. Have you ever seen Dirty Harry?
No.
Dirty Harry
Sadly.
is
To my shame.
too much. What?
To my
Oh
shame.
yeah. To your shame. Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
not proud
totally
of
to your
not
shame.
seeing it, and it's not deliberate.
Yeah,
I just haven't gone out of my way.
Dirty Harry, but you know what they are.
I know what they are.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
make my day, punk.
yes.
Yes, so I'm very familiar with the quotes.
Yeah. So he makes those style movies, but set in like Hong Kong. What?
Make my day.
Yeah. Make my yeah.
But set in
feeling
Hong
lucky?
Kong, you said?
Yeah, but they're set in Hong Kong, and it's just Chinese guys. And his like all-star actor that he uses constantly is the guy that plays the Asian captain in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. You remember the bald guy that's like, more steam? That guy?
Which Pirates of the Caribbean?
I think it's the third one. The one where they
Further on, I'm
one
very
with
familiar with the first one.
the tentacle beard with
Sorry, I was probably pretty tuned out by the third. Third and fourth I saw once probably.
well,
First one a lot.
what's the second one?
I don't know.
What's just whichever.
The more piratey Elizabeth became, the less interested I was.
Oh yeah, okay. She's full pirate in the third one.
Yeah, no, it's
like Barbossa comes back and I love that movie. This movie is so good. It's like I hold that is the last great blockbuster movie
Okay.
that has been made.
Big statement.
Yeah, the Pirates of the Caribbean were like the last really good like Avengers style big budget movies that were made. Is the Pirates of the Caribbean
I
movies.
really enjoyed the first one.
Yeah.
I'd go back and watch it again.
They're very fun.
That
They're
was
really
very
good.
fun.
Yeah, they're really good. Anyways, it's just so it's that guy, and his name is like something wild, like Fat Woo Jen or something. But he's a really good actor, and he's like, dude, he just looks great. He's handsome, and there's this like aesthetic that was like present in the 70s and 80s in Hong Kong and in Japan. This like jazz culture, sort of like all these like really nice, beautiful, elegantly lined like mid-sized sedan cars and like Miami Vice style like big suits, and it's just very, very, very good aesthetic. And then the movies are really good themselves because they're like classic 1980s action movies where it's just like every time he kills somebody, he just mag dumps them. Like just all 18 rounds into one guy, and the guy like flies back, and it's all and they're
real dramatic.
Yes, yeah, and the whole time they're speaking Chinese, they're like
it's like Chinese Die Hard.
Yes, it's like Chinese Die Hard. Yes, exactly, it's Chinese Die Hard.
I can dig it.
Yeah, and and John Woo's just a really good director. He has like a really good understanding of like visual angles, and he there's like so many good shots where you literally pause the movie and just like look at the shot, and you're just like, that's so sick. Like there's an angle like in the beginning of the first fight scene in the movie Killer. There's this shot that's it's up the barrel of him. He's got two 911s, or he's got two 1911s, whatever. What are they called? Are they 1911s? The American
pistol, yeah.
Magnum, yeah, they're 1911s.
1911 is a classic. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I was saying the right thing.
Unless you're not talking about Desert Eagles, the big ones that like Agent Smith has.
No, I'm talking about it's like the standard issue Magnums from like World War II.
Yes.
Okay, like 44s.
I believe so.
The one that Tannen
really
carries.
not my thing, but yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Tannen carries a 1911, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's got
that
two
is a
of
1911.
those. Yeah.
It's a beautiful gun.
Yeah, looks amazing.
You can have it in any color, shape. Like it's highly
adaptable
and stylized, and so I mean, there's infinite number of parts and things you could modify with. So, yeah,
great gun.
It's a
and
great
so
gun.
He's got two
All
of them.
American.
He's in this like jazz bar with this like low lighting, and it's all shot on film, so everything's like a little grainy, a little fuzzy, and he's going like this. He's making this face, and the shot is up the barrel, and he's just like leaning in like this, and he's got this like nice suit, with this like white scarf and his black hair slit. It's like the coolest shot you could ever imagine. And he's just like, God, just like walking forward, just gunning this guy down. It's so good. It's so good. And the ending is like tragic and there's a bit of justice, a bit of tragedy. There's like, it's not just a crappy action movie. It's like there's like a narrative sort of end to it that is complex in some ways, and it's just so good, dude. I immediately, as soon as I got done watching it, I was like, I'm firing up another one, and I watched another one called Hard Boiled, I think is what it's called. Have you seen it?
No, just the name's great.
Yeah, and it's just another.
Hard Boiled could be the next Die Hard trilogy.
Yes,
Chinese Die. I could see.
It is
Hard Boiled 2.
It's like a hard grizzled
crack
cop.
in the shell.
Yeah, crack in the shell. Yeah. It's just like it's the same guy, same actor, same main character. Instead of an assassin, he's a cop. Mm-hmm. Effectively, like the same thing. Just like, let's make a reasonable plot line to get these really cool aesthetic shots, like all this cool clothes, all these cool like 1990s, 1980s cars, lots of cool fun gun scenes, like shootout fights. Like it's just really good. The John Woo movies are really good, and cool. I can personally say that The Killer is like my favorite movie I've watched this year.
Okay.
The Killer. I think it was made in 1989, so they remade it. Netflix remade it and this year or last year, and it is trash. is
Shocker.
Here's how bad it was. Usually I say it was so bad I turned it off in the first few minutes, or I turned it off halfway through, whatever. It was so bad I finished it. That's how bad it was. No,
were you,
I was just
hoping it would end differently?
I just was like, this is awesome.
No, were you hoping it would end differently?
Oh yes, yeah. I was hoping it would. Yeah, it traumatized me.
Did you watch it a second time?
Yes.
I just watched it on repeat all day.
I woke up my wife and I was like, "You are gonna." She was asleep already for the night, and I woke up and was like,
we're gonna watch 2 hours of this terrible movie.
Yeah, dude, it's so bad. Oh,
I have to share my pain.
It's so cringe. It's so bad. Oh gosh, it's so bad. It's such a soiling of his legacy. But anyways, John Woo movies are really good. That's my
That reminds me of just Chinese movies. Back before Jackie Chan was making American movies.
Yes.
There's a movie that was in Chinese. It was subtitled.
Yeah.
It's dubbed. It's dubbed. So it's just terrible dubbing of like
makes it better.
80s or 90s Chinese movie dubbing.
Yeah.
But all real effects and stuff like that. So there's no there's no computer animation or anything like that. So it's all real stunts, and it's Jackie Chan like in his younger days.
Oh.
Have you seen Who Am I?
No.
Okay.
That's
Get a chance. Yeah. Who Am I? Jackie Chan's character is like a special op. He's on a special ops team.
Yeah.
They show them carrying out this special ops assignment or whatever. They're successful in it, and they're flying back on the chopper, and all the guys are, they're all pumped up because they just succeeded, and they're all, yucking it up and whatnot in the back of the helicopter. And then the pilots turn a gun on them and then like cut the steering or something like that to the helicopter and bail out of the helicopter.
That's so sick. Why don't we make stuff like that anymore, dude? It's so good.
And Jackie Chan lunges after the second pilot and catches him by the chute as he's going out, and all the other guys hang on to him. So Jackie Chan they have shots of the helicopter with this dude hanging out of it with Jackie Chan holding onto the guy, onto his pack, as they're like the helicopter's starting to careen out of control and go down. And eventually they just can't hold on to Jackie anymore. So the guys, they fling back. They're trying to get control of the helicopter. The helicopter ultimately crashes. That pilot, his chute gets pulled out partially, so he falls to his death.
Okay.
And Jackie Chan falls down into this jungle, slams a bunch of trees, womp, 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 like and finally hits the ground.
Yeah.
Passes out and is recovered by I think it's like an African tribe. He's stuck in Africa somewhere.
Okay.
And so he recovers there, loses his memory entirely, hence the movie title, Who Am I?
Yeah.
He doesn't remember a thing. Obviously, he retains all of his fighting skills.
Of course.
Yes. But makes it back there's like this cross-country racing in like these little, like they look like Isuzu, like little Jeeps.
Yes, dude, yes.
So one of the guys in one of these teams gets bit by a snake or something like that, and Jackie happens upon them. He's all painted up like an African warrior because he's been living with this tribe because he doesn't know who he is.
Yeah.
And he finds them, and then like he saves this guy by like manufacturing with like a little rubber hose and a coconut. He gives him an IV with the coconut.
Excellent.
And like sharpens what's the little metal things that you use to pump up tires and things like that, a bicycle tire.
Oh, yes.
He uses those. He he accelerates the Jeep because the tire's off, and he uses that as a grinder to sharpen this thing, and then jabs the guy in the arm with it, tapes it in place, stuffs him in the back with a bunch of coconuts. He jabs the other one into the coconut, and then drives and finishes the race. And then they save this guy, and then he goes on this adventure of figuring out who he is, and they're still trying to kill him because they realize this one guy out of the team survived.
Yeah.
And the guys who are in charge realize he's alive. So he's fighting against agents and whatnot that they're sending to kill him while he's trying to figure out who he is.
That is awesome.
And there are some fantastic fight scenes in it, some hand-to-hand combat.
That is awesome.
Really impressive.
Yeah.
And some other stunts in there, but yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
You just have to overlook or enjoy the bad dubbing.
Yeah. I think that stuff makes it better.
Yeah.
That stuff makes it way
so
better.
Who Am I? Jackie Chan.
Who Am I? Jackie Chan. That might be a John Woo movie if it's a Chinese movie.
Maybe.
That's sick. All right, dude, we did it.
We
2
did.
hours and 8 minutes.
All right.
When I edit this down, I bet it'll still be over 2 hours.
Probably.
Cool. How do you feel?
Feel pretty good.
Good.
Yeah.
Any
Back in the saddle.
Yeah, back in the saddle. Any parting comments?
No, I don't believe I do. Do you?
Nope. All good.
Well, gentlemen and lady.
Gentlemen and lady, hey, Mom, you guys will be praying for you. We love you. Be safe out there. Go to church. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your family. Take care of those you love. Take care of those people that God has charged you to take care of. Don't give up. Be serious. Be optimistic. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Adios.